made a terrible mistake. I just realized it. Here we are live on ZDTV. And
And
that door right there is open. I'm going to have to leave for 2 seconds because you don't want to hear my son get out of bed. Give me 1 second. You can fill the time. You'll see me leave and come back.
alrighty. Well, it's good to be here. Welcome to another live stream of ZDTV. Always good to see you, Clint. Hope things are
It's
going
nice
well
to
for
see
you.
you too, Ken. I'm back, and that problem has now been rectified. So
All right.
we're good to go. Live ZDTV. You never know what's going to happen, right? I think this is like the third Friday in a row Western New York has sun. We don't really have great blue sky. It's kind of gray, which is relatively normal, but
Normally it's gray, right?
the sun is shining. Well,
Okay.
it's like a grayish blue. Like I can see blue sky, but if you came up here and said that's not really blue sky, that's like gray. But it's like the sun is shining, so I can tell that there's some sun out there. We got the shades drawn. That's very important, right? You need to have good illumination when you're on the ZDTV.
I can't tell if you're elated by the blue sky or if you're missing the gray sky.
Oh no! It's always elation when I can see the blue sky. It makes me remember where I grew up, which was far bluer skies than
Okay.
I get here in Western New York, and the blue skies are just prettier. Where it becomes useful is like when you're outside doing some sort of sporting event. If it is a gray overcast sky, you don't get that direct sun in your eye. So
Right.
sometimes it can be helpful, but usually I would much rather have beautiful blue sky with beautiful white fluffy clouds, low humidity. That's where I want to live. Where I don't know where that is. Maybe the chat will tell us where that is, and I can live there because it's not Rochester, New York.
All good.
uh, all right. What about you, bud? How's things down there?
Yeah, things are pretty good here in North Carolina, and at least for me, fortunate to say, things are pretty good right now.
How's the humidity in North Carolina?
It's been very pleasant the last couple of days.
Oh, good.
We've had wet bulb temperatures over 100,
Oof.
but it is
What is it like
like it's a
38C for everybody else
a
who's watching us?
comfortable, yeah, it's like a really comfortable 95 degrees when it's not too humid.
Mm,
But yeah, as long as you can get away from it. Now, if you're stuck out in it, then you're
mm.
thinking I'm crazy right now.
That sounds about right. All right. Well, not that you're crazy, but that you would not enjoy it. I know I don't enjoy it. On today's ZDTV, what do we got? We got some release notes. We always love to read our release notes, see what's new and improved in the world of OpenZiti.
Call out the highlights at least.
Yeah. And then we've got a special guest. Hopefully, people are following us on the Twitter, on the socials. Maybe we need a little feed thing, Ken, about our socials. Maybe we could work on that. Maybe you know what I should do? I should just put it right into the slide, shouldn't I? Because I pop the slide up every week. Um, but
Oh yeah, like where to make contact.
yeah, so the reason I bring it up is because on Twitter, OpenZD will often let you know that ZDTV is about to begin. Also,
True.
Ken, did you know that there has been some confusion over ZDTV and what it is? Would you believe that? Thank you
I
for popping that up because that's actually the confusion. There are people who love ZDTV so much that they go out to the internet and they search on their favorite search engine, Google, and then they type in ZDTV, and then they are
Oh
shocked,
no.
right? Exactly. They're shocked and
Okay.
saddened when they can't find their ZDTV. So if you're one of those viewers, don't search for ZDTV, search for OpenZiti, right? Oh, wait, hang on, Ken. Wait. Wait. Do it again. Do it again.
Right down
Yeah, look at
there.
that. Well, look at us. Look
OpenZiti.
at us go. We're such good streamers. Yay. Yeah.
All the tools.
So OpenZiti is the channel on YouTube, and ZDTV is the video series on the channel. So
Right.
just search for OpenZiti space YouTube and you will find us, or just go to youtube.com/OpenZiti. And since we now have over 100 subscribers, because we're kind of a big deal,
Oh, you set up the vanity
we have
URL.
the vanity URL. That's right. Yes.
Yes.
So now you
We're all
can
grown
just
up.
we are all grown up. So now you can just go to youtube.com/OpenZiti. You can go to twitter.com/OpenZiti, and you can find us on those two places. We will not have an Instagram.
That's not happening.
Not
Okay,
happening. All right, so let's get into it. Let's take a look at some release notes, shall we? Where
let's
is
do it.
my release notes? Let's make those embiggened. I can read them. All right. And make this bigger over here so I can read it over here. Come back over here. Where is it? There it is. All right. So release 0.26.3. Now, I don't know if you're aware, Ken, but the last release was 26.1. So those astute among us might ask where 26.2 is. And my answer to that is don't you worry about 26.2. We had a little snafu. And so we released 26.3 right on the heels of 26.2.
Yeah.
So you could think of 26.3 and 26.2 as exactly the same because they mostly are.
Sometimes that machinery gets clogged up.
Yeah, people are people, right? All right. So what's new? Well, I also, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but we have something dark right on the beginning. I have no idea what service this is. It must be protected with OpenZiti because it is
You
totally
can't see
invisible.
it.
Can't see
Yeah.
it. Don't have a clue as to what it is. But as far as the edge, no changes to the edge. The fabric has a whole bunch of changes. Maybe we'll see those down below. Nothing in the ZDCLI. And then transport no longer requires client certificate. That's cool. So let's look at link events. Link events can now be configured in the controller events configuration. I am not very well versed with the events configuration. Ken, are you?
No.
Yeah, I'm not. Maybe we should. One of the when I'm having better days, I think about ahead of time asking for some cliff notes from the team. So like maybe Paul Lorenz would have been a good person to ask, or Cam, or somebody who is more tightly coupled to the controller events. But it looks to me like there are, I know that we can emit events from the controller, and it looks now like we have a controller events section. Event types: dialed, connected, fault, router link new, router link known, router link disconnected, dest. All right. Generated when the controller sends a link dial message to a router. That's cool. So I can now find out, well, maybe not now, maybe I've always been able to, but maybe they're just separated a bit easier to make it more discoverable, more, what would the word be? Like just cleaner for somebody who's trying to make a graph, maybe? I don't know. I heard some of this rumbling through the week, but I didn't pay enough attention to remember what it is all about.
Well, at a higher level, it's just more evidence of the power of an open system with events like this. It's just a testament to how deep you could go in your integration of the OpenZiti. If you wanted to set up behaviors that were based on these events, then you could. You just subscribe to them, notice them, and act on
Yeah,
them.
makes me want to play around with it because I don't know much about it. I know that we do these kinds of events for supportability. We know people are using OpenZiti, so these events are useful to troubleshoot, and you get to figure out different pieces of information based on different events. This one's neat. Alternative server certificate support. So there is an identity library that we have out there. And now I think maybe it was the last one that we released SNI support. Did we talk about SNI?
Yep. Yep, I remember that.
Was it in 26? I don't. Oh, right down here. Server cert scenarios. Yeah.
Yep.
So we talked a little bit about SNI, and now alternative server certificate support. I would
Okay.
imagine this goes hand in hand with SNI. Like
Seems like it would, yeah.
you need to be
So
able
you
to
get the
return
right
it correct.
certificate for the name you sent.
Yep, makes sense. And we do have YAML and JSON example
Oh, that's going to be
configurations.
really cool. We'll be able to actually take advantage of that with the quick starts, because you'll
How
be able to
so?
have, you could potentially have a local certificate and a global certificate.
And what would the quick start? How does it tie into the quick start?
Um, I'm just imagining how today we have local certificates like that are just just a top level name.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Did we lose Ken? Okay. I think we have lost Ken. Or you've lost
Like,
me. I don't know who. Oh, Ken?
oh, I got a warning actually, so it looks like my connection is degraded. We can just move
Ah.
on.
We could just move on. Let's just move on. That's a good call. Let's just do that. So moving on means we're going to bring Dinesh into the picture here.
All
So
right.
let's give Dinesh a shout out and bring him on screen. Say hi,
Hey, Dinesh.
Dinesh. Hey,
Hey,
nice
good
to see you.
morning.
Good
Nice to see
morning,
you.
good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be, whenever you might be. Right? This is recorded, so people
A
might be
global
listening.
phenomenon.
You might watch it tomorrow. You
Oh,
might watch it later tonight. You never do know. So Dinesh, how
right.
are you?
I'm doing great.
Welcome to
How about
Ziti
you?
TV. I'm also doing great. Welcome to Ziti TV. Thanks so much for offering to give us a cool little presentation. I know
My
we've got
pleasure.
some. I know we've got some. What is it? It's a Ldap embedded application embedded. Is that what we got going on today?
That's true. That's right.
And can you just tell me a little bit about what that might mean? Just is there a teaser without going right into it, or do you want to go right into it?
Yeah, let me just tell what the theme is all about, right? So it is basically allowing applications to embed ZT in order to make secure connectivity to their directory servers in their private network. Uh,
And what
use
when has that been necessary? Did we do this for any particular reason, or did we do that because it sounded cool and fun?
Uh, yeah, we had a reason for our own SaaS product. I'll walk you through that information as we
Oh,
proceed.
cool.
So I have a set of agenda items. Let me talk about it. So
All right,
before we get ahead,
oh yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So let me get started. Um, So here's the agenda for the day. So just a quick intro about basics of what is directory service and LDAP and what is the problem that we're trying to solve, how did others solve this, and how are we solving it. And then finally, I have some cool demos to show.
Dinesh, if I
Okay,
could, is there any way to make this a little bit bigger?
definitely. Does it look
Yeah,
good?
love it, love it.
Awesome. Okay, so the basics, right? So what is a directory service and what is LDAP? So it's a directory service, as all of us know. It's an information store, and then it acts as a single point for our users to find resources or services within their corporate network, right? So and then most enterprises use this service in order to store their username, passwords, emails, addresses, printer data, and several other static informations there. What is LDAP? LDAP is basically an open. It's an open tool, and then it's a vendor neutral application protocol that is used to retrieve information from this directory servers and also manage information there. So
So
that's
so
the
now
that's the
L
basics.
LDAP is what is it? Lightweight Directory Access Protocol, right?
I got it right. Yeah, it's
And is Active Directory? I've heard of Active Directory. Is that relevant or is it related?
correct. Yeah. So when I say directory service, there are several implementation of this directory service. I'll just pop up that slide. Here you go. So to your question, so Active Directory is one of the implementations for the directory service, and then we have all major
Now, I
names.
I promise I did not look at this ahead of time. So that's really cool. I'm glad I was able to feed your next slide so perfectly.
Right. Thanks for that. So we have almost every major vendors there who have their own implementation of this directory server software. So as you called out, Active Directory is Microsoft's implementation. and then we have IBM doing their own server, and then we have Apple, we have Apache, you name it, all popular um, big names have got their own implementations, including Oracle and several Red Hat and several others. So this is just some information from the wiki, right? So let's move on. So what is the problem we are solving? So as I told you, most organizations depend upon their on-prem directory server to run their critical business applications, right? So if everything is within their own network, everything looks cool. But when when they have to adopt some cloud-based applications, then it becomes a challenge for them to extend their LDAP infrastructures. So one of the classic examples that we have, you asked me in at the beginning, right? So NetFoundry client endpoint synchronization is one of the classic use cases. So let me talk about what it is, right? So if you look at some of our clients who use NetFoundry for the use case like work from home, they want all their employees to access their business applications through our secure network. So when we say that, so all the employee information sits within their Active Directory or any directory service that they might be using within their company. So when they're using our SaaS solution, uh, it becomes tricky when you have to bring in new clients, when new employees or your employees are retiring, or you want to give fine-grained access control to your different groups within your company. uh, that's where this really addresses the problem. So what we basically do is, using this LDAP Ziti LDAP client, we enable clients to expose or allow our SaaS solution, the NetFoundry SaaS platform, to access their directory servers, the client's directory servers, and then synchronize their user data. There's a good set of configurations. If you had noticed the managed integrations page in our web console. So it allows you to configure, the rules in order to synchronize, which set of users or which set of devices that you want to synchronize, and allow access to, get an identity from NetFoundry and allow access to the various applications within their enterprise. So that's one of the major problems that we're trying to solve with this. Before I move on, anything that you wanted to know more on this?
Yeah, so it sounds like we had users or customers who wanted to be able to access their LDAP environment from anywhere. Is that what we did this for? Or was it specifically because our SaaS product, MOP, the management operation platform from NetFoundry, it wanted to be able to find and discover users for enablement inside of the NetFoundry console? Was it both?
Yeah, it's both, right? So we are solving. So that's one of the use cases, right? So as we discussed, right? So the work from home was one of the key driver for that. So NetFoundry solved that use case by this, right? So one way to uh, bring an on-prem directory server, and then allow the users in that particular environment to get an identity from us, and then securely access their applications, was one thing that we solved through our mob platform. And the other one is like, nowadays, every enterprise, they have their own set of applications which are hosted, which could be mobile apps, or it could be any other web apps or APIs. And when they want the users or the clients to be authenticated, the place usually they go to is their directory servers or their federated directory environment. So this particular client that we have will allow those apps to embed Ziti into the application and allow this secure connectivity to their private directory server and allow users to get authenticated and allow access to the different services that app is meant to be doing,
Okay,
right?
so
So
a simple scenario would be if you have a directory, you have an existing LDAP for your enterprise, and you wish to grant me temporary access or ongoing permanent access to your directory, then I could run the Zitified LDAP client, and you would not need to publish your directory over the internet or a VPN. You could keep it private and secure and just grant discrete access to me.
that's exactly
Right?
it, right? So that's exactly it, right? So you have an app, or you are the user who's building an app, or you want an access to one of the key applications within your company. So what we are doing through this client is we're letting you to access your directory server in a secure way with this
Cool.
embedded LDAP client, right?
Okay. Is there more presentation or is it now like demo time?
Let me go ahead. Yeah.
Oh,
So
you got more? Oh,
so how
cool.
did others solve this problem? So if you look at Okta, what they've done, so Okta, what they do is they have an LDAP interface, which basically replicates all the information in their on-prem directory to its cloud service, and then it allows the applications, business applications, to talk to Okta and consume the data, right? So that's how they are solving the problem, right? So what they have is an LDAP agent, which basically sits within their LDAP server environment, and then they have to configure a set of firewall rules in order to allow this agent to push information to the Okta server, which is on the cloud. Right. So this is how they are solving the problem. And in many cases they also have some on-prem hardware also in order to allow this kind of an replication and synchronization. So that's how
So
Okta is
so
doing
this is
that.
yeah, this is how Okta does it, right? And so
Correct.
I see the firewall. So everything inside that firewall can communicate to each other. There's an Okta agent and your LDAP app. And does the agent allow you to communicate from outside of the firewall, or do you have to be inside the firewall?
Yeah,
Like I see,
yes. Yeah, the LDAP agent sits within their secured network, and then there is this firewall rules which allow this LDAP agent to talk to the Okta server, which is basically on the internet.
I see. So this lets Okta communicate to your LDAP server. That's what I understand.
So correct, it allows communications
Okay.
to the on-prem LDAP server and then synchronize the
Okay.
data into its own repository.
Into Okta. Okay. Cool. Cool. And now I understand it better. Thanks.
Right. And then all the business applications, what we mentioned, right? Anybody who's developing their own applications which requires the users to be, authenticated, they basically talk to Okta and then they get authenticated. So what do we do? So we have uh, 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 a directory server, and we have our ZT tunneler, which is set up within that customer private network, which is a private subnet, and we do not change any firewall rules. And what we do is our cloud-based application will use our ZT LDAP client to natively or use ZT in order to make the connections to the server and get all the user information, right? So that is how we are doing. So what we are doing is doesn't involve any firewall rule changes, and then the ZT is sort of embedded into the directory client application. Yeah, so this
And so,
particular client that I'm talking about is more of a client for a JVM-based application, but again, we could do this for any environment.
and so on the left where it says cloud-based business application, that is NetFoundry console or NetFoundry's mop right now. Is
Yeah,
that
you could,
basically
yeah, correct. That is
that's
the
how we're
NetFoundry
that's how
mop.
we're that's how we're using it, right? And
That's
then
how we are
there's a
using it.
Ziti, and then there's Ziti app embedded inside of that box there. Is that a full LDAP? Is it like a Zetified LDAP client? Is that what it is?
Correct. So what we have within our mop is we have this manage integrations page where we go and say you create an connectivity to your on-prem directory. So when we basically go and configure that particular screen and then make a connection, it is internally using the Ziti Ldap client in order to make Ziti connection to the
So
private
there's
customer
some
out.
like artifact then that the build includes when we build whatever service that is. So like a jar or something somewhere that gets included in the build. Is that how it works?
Exactly. So we include the Ziti Ldap client is basically a Java-based artifact. So it's a jar that you put into any of your JVM-based application, then start using it to make connections, Ldap
Cool.
connections.
Is that jar, is it deployed to Maven Central or something along those lines? Or did you build it? Like how do we include it?
Yeah, it's within our JFrog at the moment. So yeah, it is something that we can publish to Maven Central as well.
Is it
Right
a
now,
public is it a public JFrog artifact or is it a private JFrog artifact?
right now it is a private what we're using, but this
Gotcha.
project itself, what we have, the ZTL app client, is a public project, and
Yeah.
then
So
that can
so
be
it's
used.
open source is what you're saying.
Correct.
We just
Exactly.
aren't publishing it to Maven Central yet. Okay. Well, we
We
can always
haven't yet
publish it
published
to
it.
Maven Central
We
if
can all.
somebody wants it.
So
Sure. Gotcha. Okay, cool.
yeah, and I have a demo, right? So what I'm basically trying to show you here is I have in the right hand side, if you see, there's an at the top corner you have an AWS private subnet where I have AWS managed Active Directory, and then I have a NetFoundry edge router tunneler set up within that particular private subnet. And then on the left hand side, the top corner, what we have is an Apache Directory server that I'm running in a Docker container within my Mac box, and then I'm using the Mac desktop edge to host this directory server and allow access to the clients which wants to consume data from it, right? So at the left hand side, bottom side, what you're seeing is the service configurations that we typically do in a mop in order to basically set up our service and the directory service and the configuration we do in order to enable clients to access those. So
Now, now,
uh,
Dinesh, it is a bit hard to read. Is there any way to
yes.
make perfect. That's what I was going to ask. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so here you go. So this is the configuration service configurations for allowing
And if actually,
the
if I can, real quickly, this is the NetFoundry console's view of Ziti. So we're looking not at Zach and not at anything else. This is something that is in the SaaS offering. So it does, lots of the terms overlap. But if anybody out there is more familiar with the open source stuff, and if there's any questions about how they what the differences are, then please ask in the chat. But otherwise, just keep in mind that this is the NetFoundry console's view of Ziti and not the open source stuff, which is fine. I just wanted to give people that context, Dinesh. Thank you.
so here's a service, Apache Directory service, which is running on my local host at port 389, and then it is hosted on one of these endpoints, which I have tagged as Apache Directory host. And then we have this intercept configurations, and then this is a service name, right? And then similarly, I have one sec. I have app1 configuration. This is basically a policy which lets, which tells, which clients or which endpoints can access this directory server. So I've given all clients with this attribute to allow get access to this particular service. And then what we have on the other side is the similar configuration for the Active Directory, right? So the one on the left-hand side that I showed is for Apache Directory, which is running on my local Docker environment, and this is the configuration for the Active Directory, which is in the AWS private subnet, right? So this is again hosted on the endpoint, and then eventually that is accessing this service, which is within that particular private subnet.
And that service is totally public or totally private?
This service is totally private.
Totally private. Cool.
This totally private, yes. Right. So this is my configurations, and then how I'm going to show you is now we are going to use our open Ldap client in order to talk to the service and then read information from there, right? So let me turn over to my tool ID. Are you able to see this?
It is incredibly small. Can you make it any bigger? Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Is it better now?
Yeah, that looks good. Oh, I see. So you've
Okay.
got a unit test here.
Yeah, so this is basically a unit test. Just a quick way to test our, make sure our application does what we intended to do, right? So let me talk a little bit about this particular application, right? When I say the Ziti Ldap client, the library that we talked about, internally, it uses our JVM SDK that we have, the Open JVM SDK for Ziti, and then it also uses the Ldap. Ldap is one of the open, SDKs or the library which is available in order to access any Ldap service. So what we have done here is we have basically written a wrapper around this Ldap tool in order to inject Ziti into the transport while making all Ldap connections, right? So that is all the Ziti Ldap connections and config and things that you see here. And one key thing that you will see here is in a typical Ldap connections, we use that /Ldap like this, and then point out to the server and the port name in order to make connections. But using our Ziti world, all we need to know is the service, and then using this service name, we'll be able to make connection to the directory server, right? Other than the service name, of course, you will need a username and a password, which will initially bind in order to get a connection to that particular directory server. So, what this client tool or this client offers is a way where you could use a JWT token from Ziti, and then you can use that token to do a enrollment with our Ziti network. This is all open API calls that we have today. So you enroll with this JWT token, and what you get back is an identity ID like that. And this identity ID typically goes into your credential vault, and then whenever you want to make this Ldap connections, you would get this identity from that vault, and then initiate a connection, right? And then using this identity, we create a Ziti context. So from identity, we create a Ziti context, and then we have this wrapper that I spoke about, Ziti Ldap connection and config. So this config class, allows you to tell which service you want to access using which bind distinguished name and bind password, right? So this is the config object that you create, and then using this config object, you pass it to this LDAP connection class with the Ziti context, using which you can open a Ziti LDAP connection, right? So once this connection is opened, you could build a request, search request like this, and tell your client to go and look for users under this tree, right? Under this DN, and then print it out, right? So this is a test for connecting to the directory, Active Directory server. Let me run that. Here you go, the test pass. So let me show.
No,
So
I was gonna say it all flew by a little too fast for me to read.
yeah, let me walk you through some of the important places that we are interested in, right? So what we have done is using this, when we say LDAP connection.open, we have basically opened a LDAP connection, and using this LDAP connection, we have submitted a search request to find users under this tree, and you could see that the search response status is true, which indicates that we got a valid response, or we are able to query and get the responses back. And these are the users that we have under that particular tree, and you could see that it's all getting printed. And then finally it goes about shutting down, closing this LDAP connection, right? So internally, the LDAPtive client that I spoke about uses Netty in order to make these connections. So ZT Netty is just a wrapper over it, and then that is all about injecting the service into the right areas in the code to make sure that the transport is using ZT instead of the in the plain TCP. So that's the test for Active Directory. Similarly, I have one of this Apache Directory servers running on my local machine. So this is
If
on
I
a
can say
Docker environment.
already, I mean that was I think that was really neat there. So like I just want to take a minute and just remind the viewer here that you are using regular old internet. You were able to connect to a private, and that was the Active Directory one, right?
Correct, yes.
You were able to connect to the private Active Directory LDAP. Oh, sorry, Active Directory server in Amazon, and query that LDAP server, I guess is the way to put it, all without having to modify a firewall. That's really neat stuff. And so now you're going to show us the same thing, but Apache's directory service.
Exactly. So
Sweet.
the Apache Directory is within my Docker. It's hosted on my Docker environment locally, and this is one of these local LDAP browsers that I've installed. You can see that I have a couple of test users created here. Now we're going to do the same browsing through our LDAP client, Ziti LDAP client. So I'm going to run the second Apache DS test case. Run. Here we go. So you can see there we have opened a LDAP connection, a ZT LDAP connection here, and then our search response returned true, and these are the two users that I just showed you from the other browser. and then finally we are closing that connection, right? So that's my demo test case.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, man. That's great.
Thank
Is
you.
there? Yeah, that's really interesting and exciting stuff. And so now I think we flashed up before that this is the LDAP client is on GitHub/NetFoundry/Ziti LDAP client. If people want to check it out, if they want to try it out, um, do you recommend, like, if somebody uses this, would you recommend that they go to the OpenZiti discourse channel, or do you want them to go to the NetFoundry community? This is open source, right? So like,
Yeah, they can go to the
there's
open
nothing.
discourse. Yeah.
Yeah, cool, cool.
So
That's
this
really
is
neat. Is
typically, this is all open source libraries, and this is the client part that I'm talking about is completely open source libraries, and nothing to do with our NetFoundry thing. It's only the server side that we have configured using our mob platform,
yeah,
but the client side is completely the open source one.
yeah, very neat, very neat. Cool.
Right.
Ken, do you have any questions? I mean, I think that's a good ZD TV. We're at 40 minutes in. Do you have any more, Dinesh, or is that the
I enjoyed the
cherry?
demo. I don't
Yeah.
have any new questions for you.
Thanks, Ken. So finally, what I had to show you is
Oh, you got one more thing? Hang on one second. Let's bring it
nothing,
on the
nothing,
screen.
nothing. I quickly wanted to show you that the mob client sync service currently uses this Ldap client to dynamically create. It's just a reiteration of what we've already discussed, right? So
Yep.
yeah, that's all I had to share, and thank you.
Awesome. Well, Dinesh, that was great, man. Thanks so much for coming on ZDTV. A great presentation. Thanks for showing us some code. Always like seeing some code on ZDTV. That was pretty cool. And thanks again. And with that, I
Thank
think we're
you,
gonna.
and you both are doing wonderful ZT television stuffs, and I follow you on Twitter, LinkedIn, everywhere, and
That's what I want to
all
hear.
these stuff
Yeah,
are amazing.
everybody should.
I'll
A
keep.
true
Awesome.
fan.
Super fan, right?
Yep.
All right, great. Well, with that, we'll say goodbye. Thanks, Dinesh. We'll
Thank
see
you.
everybody next time. All right, bye.
Thanks,
See you then.
everybody.
Bye. Bye.